back to Hishaku Hideout, a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest chapter and everything Kagurabachi. I'm here with Dice.
Yo.
And today we're talking about chapter 94. And I gotta say, Yura is our GOAT. He isn't some zombie mindless drone. Y'all can go somewhere with that. He's his own man. He's built different.
Yeah, right? Like this chapter really proves he's no Spawn, right? He's no Spawn of the Shinuchi. We still don't know what the Sword State might be able to do, right? But nah, man, Yura's him for real. And this chapter really proves it. So let's get into it, right?
Yeah, just had to hoist up our GOAT, slamming those two dudes that think they're badass. But anyway, we start the chapter with looking at Kiora Sazanami and seeing what it actually takes to be, use the Magatsumi by proxy. And it isn't just about pouring your spirit energy into the sword. You have to have a desire to use it. There has to be a motivation to actually use the sword in order to activate it, which I thought was kind of cool. It's something a little bit different than what we thought was possible. And as you said just a minute ago, we don't know what the Magatsumi is really capable of, because now, the boy stood up. He was sitting down for Kiora. He stood up for Yura, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing to point at. The Sword Saint is active now, whereas last time he just said Magatsumi. There is a mistranslation you informed me this chapter where it's, we'll get into that, but I just want to, say it at the top, where we're, under the impression that he says malediction. According to the raw Japanese scans, the non-translated, he just says Magatsumi again. But yeah, like you said, he's active now. So I wonder what that means for Yura. But yeah, at the beginning of this chapter, it's a flashback and it's Ichiki with Azami and Hakuri, and they're kind of running through the scenario and how they should kind of move, right? Which is what we were talking about last chapter or last episode. And we get the, two of the big three, let's say, finally name reveals, right? Yatsuru and Kazan, we finally get their name revealed. And the fact that they're, along with Ichiki, the top three best sorcerers within the Kamunabi. Azami's just the best fighter. So yeah, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts?
Man, there's a lot of talk about all this knowledge and information that is in these books, and they know twice as much as the Masumi. So basically, this is I don't know. I need to see some action from these people to because we know the Masumi, and I kind of give the Masumi a lot of crap. But they have contributed to the gang and Chihiro and the story in general. I can't fault them for that, but it is pretty crazy that Azami, he is aware he's the younger one, and he's his physicality is what puts him up there to the strength level. But there's still these things barriers and just natural sorcerer elements that you pick up, not through your own innate sorcery, that he just can't do compared to them. And Izuru, right? Izuru is a Kamunabi higher up, and he seems pretty capable. He seems more maybe the balance in between Azami and the three higher ups, where he is about that action and he can do sorcery. So I would like to see what disparages the Masumi compared to these three. We never seen any of the higher ups really fight, and maybe they don't have to fight. It's not always just about fights, obviously. It could just be
that's the.
My bad. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say that's the whole thing. I don't think after these statements, I think that's the whole thing. I don't expect them ever to fight. I think their sorcery prowess is what we see. It's their ability to seal something like the Shinuchi. I think that's the way that they show that off. I'm not we might see them fight, but I think that's exactly what we're getting here. That you have guys like Azami that are capable sorcerers, and they're on a good enough level that alongside their fighting prowess, they're just that guy. And there's a whole nother conversation to be had with Shiba, right? Which is not mentioned here because he's no longer in the Kamunabi. but he's likely stronger than the big three as well, right? So I'm not even
Yeah.
gonna get into that right now. But yeah, I guess my point is that I don't expect these guys to fight. Ultimately, their sorcery is showed off through seals and their abilities to do, like what you mentioned, barriers and hey, sealing the Magatsumi is pretty insane because we see this chapter what that thing is capable of.
Yeah, and I think like Ichiki, like we know he's a fighter, so like I think like Kazan, I can definitely see him not fighting, but Yatsuru, like we'll talk about in a little bit, but I think she might be the traitor actually, and it's just kind of like a red herring of Kazan like being sus in this chapter, but Ichiki likes to fight. I would like to see him kind of throw hands. I just just to want to see it. They don't need to fight, like I said earlier, because it isn't about that for me. It's more about like individual characters and their own dynamic and what they contribute to the story. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like not just because someone's strong doesn't necessarily mean they need to fight. They could stand for something else and get like off. They get off paneled or something, whatever the case may be. But it's going to be interesting to see how things play out now that we're like zeroing down the traitor. Now that the Magatsumi is active. And later in this chapter, we see some of our best boys coming into the fray. So things are really going to start moving now. Like we were already on a quick pace, but now it's like all the pieces are actually being in motion now. Like the pieces that we needed off the board are on their way here, and it's really just about. I kind of want to see if Yatsuru is the traitor or Kazan, because technically he could be. I think that they're gonna have to like. I feel like they're gonna kill another Kamunabi higher up, because they're gonna have to like try and escape if they get outed as the traitor. Like she's the one that's not there, so she's like trying to escape now. Like imagine Izuru pulls up on her. I'd like to see like two sorcerers fight. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, there's, yeah. I mean, I think Hokuzono already has his hands full between this, and like you said, we'll get to it, but Chihiro and Samura pulling up and what's going on with Yura. So I'm not too confident that we'll have like another new encounter. We very well could be, like you might be onto something, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about, I think you put it perfectly. We're zeroing in on, what is by all intents and purposes the traitor, right? Which Ichiki himself says it's one of them three. And look, man, I know we get a lot of Ichiki's perspective here. Like he's the one kind of running through, the events and kind of the Hishaku's planning. And I know I might sound kind of like just a hater saying that he's still on the table, but he literally says that like his worry is that one of them three could be colliding with the Hishaku, and that very well could be nothing, right? Ultimately he's alluding to the other two, which were just revealed this chapter. But I think there's something to say, because this has been a big point among the community about the traitor being somebody that we know, and that the readers have been able to kind of develop not an attachment, but just he's been present in the story. There would be more weight perhaps on a personal side for him doing something like that. And Yatsuru and Kazan are two newly introduced characters that if it's one of them is the traitor, we would almost have to just not almost, but in theory we would have to spend more time with them to really get to know them, to kind of flesh that out and their motives, rather than that being something for a character that has already been introduced like Ichiki. So what I'm saying is that to me, all three of them are still on the table. I agree with you in like the way Kazan says no. It does seem like he's the traitor, but I think it's a misdirection for him trying to adapt. And you had told me this, but like ultimately them not proceeding with the plan where like, okay, no, we cannot proceed with Hakuri sealing the Magatsumi. So we'll see how Ichiki reacts to that. Where's Yatsuru? Because Ichiki, says it like it has to have been one of them to ultimately cover up the fact that Yura was able to pour his spirit energy into the Shinichi, which isn't what we still haven't brought up. So that's what the traitor did. The traitor covered that up, and I agree with you. I ultimately don't think it's Kazan, so we'll see if it actually is Yatsuru.
And with Ichiki, I mean, he does also say like, he says, I've known them both for many years. I need to prove to myself that my suspicions are unfounded. So like he does mention like them too. So
What's crazy is, I'm sorry to interrupt, that this is no longer thoughts. Like previously, the argument was that like, no, these are like people were using Ichiki's inner thoughts about like what the Hishaku were doing to prove that it was like him, like why would he lie, with his own thoughts? It doesn't make any sense. But here he could be very easily putting up a facade, right? And this is all only the beginning part is a flashback, right? We kind of fall back to present time, but ultimately, like, Ichiki could be putting up a facade. I'm not taking his words, like, I'm not trusting his words here because they're not thoughts. Sorry, go ahead.
Me personally, I need to fill out an Ichiki apology form.
Fuck no. Hell no, I'm not ready to do that yet.
But I do like how when the elevator opens, Hakuri has his little mat, his storehouse, like the mask. I do thought that was cool. He was like coming ready.
Yeah, I hope he's not just wasting spirit energy because he looks
his
cool
IQ's just dropping. But no, I'm putting my stakes on Yatsuru now, and as you mentioned, like we have to, going forward, we have to flush out their motivations. Why did they betray the Kamunabi in Japan and all that?
And Kunishige.
And Kunishige. The fact of we know the most about Ichiki. Then we know Kazan would be the second one we know the most about, and she's like this mysterious one, but she does play an integral part in the operations of the Kamunabi, being like the right-hand man to the leader. And I did a video on Ichiki being the traitor, and during that video I did research a lot, like how like for in Japan the seating arrangements for like meetings and things like that, and it did ring true that the people that sit next to the most important person, like the president of the company or whatever, their assistants always sit to the right and left of them. And I don't remember if I even talked about it in a video, if I ended up scrapping it, because I thought, people probably don't really care about that, because maybe I'm going too like headcanon-y. But that is the case here, that like the seating, their placements that in the table was important. So he outright verbatim says that they're the assistants. But with her being a blank canvas, Hokuzono now can like flush her story out in any direction, and he doesn't have to tiptoe around like predetermined things. Because we know nothing about her. She wasn't there for the treaty signing, so he can but she's an assistant, so her knowing about the treaty signing and like the ramifications of it, he can play with that as he wants to. It's not like he has to worry about like breaking or retconning anything for the most part. So I think we'll get her story like more flushed out, and I do think there's going to be more fights. You talked about like you're not sure if there's going to be fights or it could happen, because we still also have more elite commanders to see.
True. Yeah.
Like because he showed us like how they like the designs, and we know your boy from Ikuto from the Cloud Gouger Squad. He's a part of it.
Wait, who did you say was an elite commander?
Ikuto from the Cloud Gouger Squad.
Bro, is it bad that I forgot who that dude is?
That's the dude from the Cloud Gouger Squad with the glasses. Remember in the panel he had to do with the mask?
He's the one with the dead homie. Yeah.
He's the one with the dead homie.
I forgot he was he confirmed to be a commander? God,
when he brought up the elite commanders, he was shown twice when they mentioned the elite commanders.
Okay, well, now that we're on the same topic, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we get 2 more Kamunabi named reveals, right? Kasen and Yatsuru. We still don't know who Togo is. I think some people in the community have been able to theorize. They think it's the guy with the earrings. I think it is. But yeah, we don't know who Togo is. The guy who Natsuki is the commander of, that unit, Togo Squad. Remember?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's still something. I know it's not a big thing, but just look out for. So yeah, man, what do you want to get into now? There's we can get into like the our boy and that the fight that has been stealing the show for the last couple of chapters. What do you want to talk about?
I know how you could segue it, or we can transition back, because I did mention about like there's going to be more fights. You could just say
I would keep all of this in. I'm not talking like to edit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, what do you want to talk about now?
Oh, I mean, we could just jump, talking about like the Ikuto and all the like the possible fights. Let's just talk about the actual fight that's happened in this chapter. The gas clash from last chapter. It jumps back to it, and we get to see like now it's Natsuki and Hokuto as Hokuto says, so this duel's over, as he gets crashed through a wall by Natsuki and his lightning. Hokuto just eats that shit, by the way. And they're in water too.
What do you think he meant by that?
Oh, I think because the swordsmen, like it's not just a sword fight anymore.
Yeah.
So now it's like he don't. Now it's like just an all out. Now it's an all out fight. It's not just a sword fight against swordsmen. And also we do see Uraha / Yura. And Yura's just like, look at Yura's face. He's like, they're both going full throttle with their sorcery. They want to kill us as quickly as possible. He just looks so fed up.
I told you, he's been so annoyed, bro, for like the past 4 chapters, bro. He does not want to be there.
He does not want to go. That boy does not exert energy. That's funny.
That don't stop him, though.
Think, like we talked a little bit about this, and maybe someone in the comments can clear it up. Just not knowing what the hell he means when he says neither of them is giving up the ghost easily. Like, is that just like a fire, like dope ass way to say he's trying to kill them? Like, oh, they're not turning into the ghost easily. Like, that would be like gas, but I doubt that's it. Yeah, cause I mean, and it's weird because they're also like they describe the Hishaku as like phantoms. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's like what you said. I would like because I don't know if it's like an old saying or maybe a saying from Japan that was tried to be translated or something. Maybe that's something people say, but ultimately, yeah, my impression was just like they're not giving up their ghost easily, right? They're not giving up their own lives easily. Maybe I'm completely off the mark, but that's at least how I read it.
Because like, what are they trying to go after? Like, that's like that could be like paired with like a goat. Like, we know now they're not trying to free the Sword Saint. You know what I mean? Like that's. We also know that Yura said that we just have to buy time. Like, why would he say that? But then we also know it's like a race against time, essentially. Because if Hakuri gets to the Magatsumi first, before he starts, like he has that desire, he pushes that desire out that to activate the Magatsumi's power, then I mean, I guess that he would still be able to activate the Magatsumi. It would just be in Hakuri's storehouse. And the chapter title is called Second Arrow. What did Yura say?
I was gonna bring that up. Yes, this is the second arrow fired. Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but yeah.
Oh no, yeah, that's gas, bro. He is the second arrow.
Crazy, because I remember saying that I thought it had to do with Samura or Yori. Because back then when he says that, we were kind of wrapping up with the Yori stuff, and he had just tried to use Yori as like, a way to get to Samura. I thought that related to Yori, and it didn't. So, yeah, you know what? Let's talk about Yura, bro.
That's my goat, man.
Because once he notices that these guys are going all out, and like we see what Uruha does to Yura, like I think he slashed him across his torso, bro. Like that could have been a very lethal, potentially was a lethal shot, and Yura just goes like feral on demon time, just fucking duplicates his strength and speed, gets both Natsuki and Uruha, slams them against the ground. They literally can't do anything. They're just manhandled, and we see what starts happening to the Magatsumi.
So the thing that we've been speculating this entire time, I was like, oh man, he's just like a mindless zombie, or he's a clone, he's a spawn of the Magatsumi, like he's not his own person. He is not in charge of his own faculties. And we now know that that is not the case.
Quite the
He is
opposite.
acting, yeah, he is just that guy. And my daughter's yelling by the door.
No worries.
I'm not sure how much you can hear, but you know, like he's in charge of his own faculties, and it's the fact of he's like, you have to be mentally, like, have the mental fortitude of someone like Kira Sazanami. And that's a Kira Sazanami glaze if I ever seen, because he was just a pawn to Yura.
Yeah.
And Yura saw that and was like, oh, I could do that. You know, he had no question about it. And I just went real quick. I went back to go look at his chapter 75. He says, Saichi Samura is the Hishaku's most powerful weapon right now. We must wield him wisely and then sacrifice him for the greatest possible gain. That's his fate. One key to sealing his fate is his daughter. Depending on how the battle in Kyoto is going, we'll fire 2 arrows. And oh my goodness, I think that's a death flag for Samura if I've ever seen, because he literally just says,
I've been saying,
you know, he's like, we must wield him wisely and then sacrifice him for the greatest possible gain. I'm wondering if there's somehow, if this is gonna, like, if Yura's gonna try and set up the play to where the Swordmaster does get out, and a Swordmaster with he doesn't have the Magatsumi in hand, but, you know, maybe he can feed off of, like, the energy of whoever he's connected to. That's why he could stand, because he now has more energy from sapping Kiora a bit. And then, so now Yura's going to let him have some of his, like, spirit energy. And then it'll be Chihiro and Samura against the Sword Saint. Without the Sword Saint just won't have the Magatsumi, but he'll probably be, like, still pretty fucking strong somehow. Or maybe just using a regular sword.
Yeah, no, dude, and everything is starting to tie in, you know, in great fashion, I would say, because it all kind of goes back to what you brought up earlier. Like, they're just buying time. Well, I think this is what they were buying time for. You know, I think the timing coincides with the Sword Saint standing up. So Yura potentially, I think, didn't just want to wield, like, I don't know if we talked about this before the recording. Yura didn't just want to wield the Magatsumi, I think, like Kyora did. He wanted perhaps either more access to power, or he wanted to, like you said, maybe share spirit energy with the Master Swordsman. But there's something more to it. He didn't just want to use the Magatsumi. So whatever that other motive is what ultimately they were buying time for, which I'm pretty sure we've been in agreement that it has been directly related to the Sword Saint. And like you said, the 2 arrows, and now Chihiro and Samura are about to pull up. So there's a lot to look forward to. I have right now at the moment no theory in terms of how this could really play out, but bringing this back to Yura, dude, like, Yura stocks are up, and they're not just up. Like, I think the more you read into this chapter, the more those stocks go up, because again, he didn't just do what Kyora did. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's, like, continuously fighting the will of the Master Swordsman. Or at least I'm interested in seeing, what did it mean when his eyes were black earlier, when he was speaking to the old man? Like, I think Yura is in a much more dangerous position compared to Kyora, and he's, like, willing to fight it, right? And we've talked about this a long time ago, like a couple of episodes before, but I think that the Master, like the Sword Saint and Yura, will likely kind of come to, like, an unspoken agreement or understanding, like very likely with what you said, because if Yura is sharing the spirit energy, the Sword Saint will not reject that. You know, he's essentially, like I said this before, like, Yura is essentially extending his arm towards the Sword Saint, I think. So yeah, I don't know if I'm just kind of rambling here, but yeah, man, a lot of things to look forward to.
So the big key difference between Kyora's usage of the Magatsumi and Yura's, Yura is not fully touching the sword. So, and when Kyora did it, Kyora already received a fatal blow. Kyora was already dying when he did that. So that was a last-ditch effort for Kyora. Because remember, Chihiro slashes him, like, right through the whole torso. And then he, like, burrows underground with the Magatsumi. So that could also play into Kiora not being able to like last longer with wrangling with the sword master's control. Yura is at like, I mean, he's pretty worn down from fighting, but he doesn't have like a fatal blow, you know what I mean? Because we don't see him like stressing about it. So his like, his status of his health could play into his benefit. The fact that he doesn't have like an actual full connection to the sword itself, like I know his spirit energy is there, but with Kiora holding it, like that's like an ongoing, like nonstop,
it's
like
a
feed.
stronger. Yeah, I agree. It's like a stronger
I mean?
force to fight against. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that could play into the benefit that he's thinking about. And I went back to go look at chapter 87 when he talked to the old man. There's the moment of him flipping the coin. He's risking his life on a coin flip. Like that is showing that Yura is literally putting everything on the line for this move. He's willing to risk his life because he's confident he's not destined to die today.
Yeah.
He even says, I knew it. Today the gods are on my side.
Yeah.
Like that is so fucking hard, especially what we know now. The fact of him willingly giving himself up to like the Magatsumi's corruption because his mental fortitude, he believes that he can withstand it.
Well,
I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if anything, it's like I think this chapter is kind of him putting his money where his mouth is. Like we talked about when that chapter dropped about Yura being a guy that like he's really about it. Like he'll put his life on the lines if he truly believes that something is meant to be. Not just if he believes in it, but he believes that, like he says, the gods are on his side. And again, his decision to be willing to take on a burden similar to what Kiora did is him really doing that. It's not just talk. He's willing to put his life on the line for a cause that he believes will, should take place or whatever. And a thing I do want to point out, because I do agree that Kiora probably, there wasn't probably this, and I know I'm just speculating when it comes to like a possible unspoken agreement between the Sword Saint and Yura, saying that is likely. Clearly that wasn't the case with Kiora and the Sword Saint. Like the Sword Saint just tried to hijack his mind. We haven't necessarily seen Yura fighting off the Sword Saint. Maybe that's what we're gonna see once he comes in contact with the Magatsumi. If he does, maybe that's what we'll see next chapter. Maybe that won't happen because, like I said, there's some sort of a agreement. But what I do want to say, that this is the point I wanted to get to, is that whereas Kiora fought potentially a stronger force in the Sword Saint, like fighting off that hijacking, I think Yura has potentially fought it for a longer time, even if it's a much weaker, attempt of the hijacking, because he put his spirit energy within the Magatsumi a long time ago. I don't know exactly how many days have passed, if even a week. I think you've been able to keep track of the timeline a bit better.
Oh yeah, it's only been like a week because it's like with Chihiro when he went to like Yori's class was like November 13th or something like that, and Rakuzaichi was like in the beginning of like November 8th or something like that, November 6th.
So think about that. Like, is there any possibility that through that time the Master Swordsman and Yura were potentially able to communicate, and that's why Yura hasn't necessarily been fighting off the Master Swordsman? I don't know.
That could be why his eyes are black at certain times. It's not that he's like exhibiting the desire to wield the Magatsumi, but he might just be tiptoeing around the desire, like he like slowly exposing himself to like that corruption, like basically getting his brain used to that adversity, you know what I mean? Like he might, like you're, because we know he is like 200 IQ, big brain, sharp individual. So he might just be like able to like slowly enact the desire, but not fully desire to wield the Magatsumi. And when the times he does it, like he looks at at the old man, and he like shakes he does the black eyes there. He does the black eyes to Uraha when they clash, when they first clash with each other. He has the black eyes. So it's like, it's just about him like kind of, well, one, he's intimidating the fuck out of his opponents, but it's slowly exposing himself to this corruption so he can fight it when he actually does start to use the power. And I mean, he doesn't have the sword, and if you don't have your sword, he shouldn't be able to use like Centipede or nothing like that.
Yes, I'm glad that you bring that up. Right, because I was just about to say that ultimately, because this is all obviously speculation, that's what I expect the next couple of chapters to go into. Because I really have my suspicions regarding Yura and the Sword Saint, and I don't know what to think, whether they're on the same page, whether Yura might be willing to backstab the Sword Saint once he gets what he wants, because obviously he wants to wield the blade that the Sword Saint is contracted to. Is the Sword Saint going to be the one willing to backstab Yura? Like, what's going to happen here? And what, like you said, what has allowed Yura to manifest the Magatsumi's powers without even coming in contact with it? Is that because the Sword Saint allows it? Can even do such a thing? So like, there's a lot to really just speculate on, really. And I'm really interested.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
my bad. I think like him being able to, get compelled. I'll call it like the Sword Saint's compelling Yura. I think that's like the equivalent essentially to Chihiro's, like with his fish in the Rakuzaichi arc, when he put his spirit energy in the sword and he created a fish from it. So as long as his spirit energy is still in that sword, we know that because the flowers are still blooming on Shikoku. So now if the sword master didn't have any spirit energy in it, he would still have his contract, but he'd just say he didn't have, like, the spirit energy ran out, then this would be impossible. But the fact that his spirit energy is still remaining there, that he's able to, like, if he has like a proxy to enact it, then he can like start it. But we know he can't do that himself. He needs a proxy to do that in his current position. Because if he could have just started the Magatsumi up without anyone touching it or having any proxy, he would have did it, already just himself.
Yeah,
but it's all speculation, of course, like you were saying, because it could go a lot of different ways with this. But I see what you're saying, like maybe that they come to an understanding, like they're not on teams, but the sword master, for him to escape, he has to like give Yura the power. He has to let Yura do his thing, because Yura's also going to use him by letting him have some of his like spirit energy, so he has enough strength to break out. And then they'll just have to like, Yura's going to either have to break the hold somehow, and maybe one of the Hishaku members are specifically in the Hishaku for that very reason. Someone specializes like in like a mental sorcery or something like that.
Yeah, dude, because with the Sword Saint and Yura right now, it could very well be a thing of we'll get there when we get there, in the sense of like right now, there doesn't necessarily have to be something premeditated. Like I said, and I've said it multiple times already in previous episodes, he's just getting a hand extended to him, or at least that's the way I see it based on what we know now. And why would he not take that chance, Like in his mind, when it comes to dealing with Yura, we'll get there when we get there eventually, later on after I'm out of here. And potentially have my hands on the Magatsumi. So we just don't know. And this chapter doesn't really, like, this chapter implies the opposite, but I wouldn't be surprised if Yura on some like 4D chess play enables the Sword Saint to take over him, because it will ultimately, like, dude, Yura is so like, he has so much conviction in his cause that I literally, like, him doing anything, like no matter how dangerous it seems for him, it will not surprise me. Like from this point forward, and maybe even before, like I will not be surprised by whichever risk Yura takes, because he's just, he has that much conviction for what he's doing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of let himself be possessed by the Sword Saint if it's something that will ultimately work towards Yura's end goal, where he can perhaps, like I said, fool the Sword Saint into thinking that he's having his way and, double cross him.
What if Yura has an innate sorcery that, I mean, obviously we know the enchanted blades are like top dogs of the verse, and Magatsumi's like the head, And what if Yura has a plan to basically, because an enchanted blade, like we saw Uraha I mean, obviously the Yaoi Pure style makes them dogs. But the Magatsumi, the Sword Saint, excuse me, is weak. Like we know he's been like he's on life support by the columns. So without his sword, what if Yura has like an innate sorcery that will allow him to override the Magatsumi, the Sword Saint, or something like that? Like will allow him to get into his brain.
Very
That's
well
like a
could
way
be.
crazy. That's a crazy theory, but Yura has to have something planned because he doesn't just do shit to do shit. And one thing I think I love the most is when's the last time we seen like a leader of a villain organization like really like put it all out there?
Put himself on
in the
line.
first 100 chapters. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gambled his life. This is the second time he gambled his third time he gambled his life because he's facing Uraha. And we know Uraha is like about that action. Like that dude is a dog swordsman. Anyone that goes against him that isn't Samura or an enchanted blade wielder is gonna have a problem with Uraha. You know, and he is putting his life on the line in that fight because they're fighting to kill him. That's 3 times he's really putting his life on the line here. Man, it's just the Hishaku. We chose our channel name. We chose right.
Oh, damn right. Hell yeah.
Yeah, like bro, the Hishaku is really like I'm enjoying them, and Chihiro's my favorite character, and you know that's still true now. But depending on where Yura goes from here, Yura is getting close to be able to contend with Chihiro.
I agree. Like this makes him more dangerous in terms of like how we perceive him. Like
yeah, the fact that we don't know what he's gonna do because he will even put himself out there now. As long as the pieces are in the right place, he's down to be in the fray. Most leaders are like, go get me the sword. He's like, nah, I'm gonna just go get the sword by proxy.
I'm gonna just do me. Yeah, no, and like you bring up a good point in saying that like if he is in a spawn of like the Magatsumi and there's none of these crazy theories where he's like what we've been kind of theorizing or some people have been theorizing for the past couple of chapters, if this is his own guy, then yeah, it begs the question, what's this dude's sorcery? Like what's his thing? What's the ace he has up his sleeve? Because there's just no way that this guy's just some ordinary guy with a charismatic, personality and just able to rally the troops.
Who's this handsome stud that could throw hands?
Yeah, exactly. Because his athleticism is on another level. Like there's enough to know that this guy is dangerous. So we don't know what's his deal in terms of like sorcery and peeling the layer of what he can really do aside of being a great leader and thinking ahead and being able to wield the Magatsumi as proxy. So I'm looking forward to that as well now, like because I agree with you, man, and I hadn't really thought about this, but whether it's a sorcery, there has to be something that allows Yura to be so, like I said, have so much conviction in what he's doing. It could just be like his personality, and hey, I think that works.
The prophecy. What if that prophecy is a part of his like innate sorcery? He talks about he talked to us that Samura about that prophecy. What if he's like a seer and he can like see certain like possible like future timelines or something? Kokuzone can do a lot with Yura. I never really thought about it, but I don't know if anyone's ever like talked about the Azami being Yura thing was like a big thing in the like first like 40 chapters.
Oh, bro, some people still banging on that drum,
Yeah, they can't no more. But like, what if Yura is like Azami's brother? Because now Hokuzono.
Shout out Brazil, by the way.
If Hokuzono does make Yasuru the traitor, we know nothing about her. Who's to say he doesn't just introduce Azami's brother who died or who he thought died in the war or something? And Azami's like, because Azami's never seen him. You know what I mean? And he's got the athleticism thing. And I mean, I don't even believe that at this point in time. But I don't think I've ever seen anyone really talk about the possibility of Azami's brother. Azami having a brother and then Hokuzono flushing him out after the reveal. Like he could possibly do a Yatsuru.
Yeah, and because we talked about like Yura being potentially Chihiro's older brother, even kind of related to the Sword Saint himself or Kunishige himself. Like, but yeah, there's been a theory about like him and Azami being the same person, but not necessarily being related. And yeah, it's because they're yeah, like you said, it would have to be a reveal that takes place like afterwards, right after the fact. We have to wait and see. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna take this
it's
opportunity.
unlikely, I'd
Yeah,
say.
and I'll just take this opportunity to plug in this theory we talked about because I think, with Yatsuru, it's like the same thing of like her being Chihiro's mom. If like Hokuzono now wants to, because like I said, there's this whole thing of like not just the traitor turning on the Kamunabi, but Kunishige himself, and whether that's a personal vendetta or if it's like an ideological difference. And so
Well, I would say Yatsu can be Chihiro's mom, unless, well, I mean, it's not impossible, but
yeah, but
like Chihiro would have to have never saw his mom, or she would have had to leave young when he's young enough to not remember her.
yeah, and none of that is like that's very plausible. Like
Yeah,
Chihiro's
sure,
mom
sure.
has never even been mentioned, which if anything kind of is like if anything is a point towards the fact that like she's never even been present. Like his once
A
if
deadbeat
she's
mom is
ever
crazy.
yeah, well, look, again, I don't want to kind of go too deep on this rabbit hole. Essentially, I'm just plugging in this theory because I think it kind of goes hand in hand where there's like not really anything to back it up besides a hunch and maybe, some things that could kind of work out for the sake of the story. Like the only thing I'm bringing this up is, in terms of Yatsuru is because it's the first time that like now she's kind of thrust into the forefront as a character with whose decisions have serious implications in the story, possibly. And since we don't really know her, what could like bring this, like I said, just make this personal for Kunishige and Chihiro himself could be that she's like the mom, or she's just related, or there's nothing there. But it's just one of those theories to look out for.
Yeah, and I guess like, see, and that's the thing. I guess like it would almost have to be Hokuzono would have to, if that happens, because Azami knows Kunishige, Ichiki knows Kunishige, Kazen knows Kunishige, and there was never like a statement or like a thought, and not saying that it still couldn't be true, but being like a little worrisome, bringing Chihiro into the Kamunabi during his trial while his mom is sitting there and nothing, like they didn't say anything about it, or there are no thoughts, but I don't know.
That's a valid. I didn't think about that. That could be a wrench. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, she has to have some connection somewhere, though. You
Yes,
know,
if she's the traitor.
if yeah, it could still be Kazan.
Ichiki's fucking sus ass.
It's not a zombie though, so yeah. But I mean, no, this chapter is like this Hokuzono is impressive as fuck for this chapter because he answered a lot of questions that we've been waiting for. Or, he's gotten close to like basically the traitor thing, which we're now zeroed in on. We know basically what it's kind of going to fall out to be. We see like the second coming of the Magatsumi being used, and the way like he just amps Yura, like, because I'm gonna be working on a video. It's gonna drop soon about like villain motivations and how important they are in the story, because they are like the driving force for the main character to want to proceed on their journey. So that's what that I think, like him like hyping up and amping up Yura's like pedigree in this chapter. Like he even says in the last panel, with this power, we will overthrow you.
Whew,
Gas. He's still in control of himself. And
agreed.
then we see the feathers coming in. Samura and Chihiro about to hit the scene. You want to wrap this up?
Yeah. It's not much really left to say, but I agree with you, man. Chihiro and Samura now pulling up is, like you said, is definitely gonna crank up very possibly the pace. Like the consequences and like the ultimate fallout that we've been theorizing about, like how this arc or this whole sequence is gonna end. I think Chihiro and Samura now on their way lets us know that we're approaching that, and I'm very interested to see what Hokuzono is cooking, man. He doesn't fail to kind of keep me on my toes. Some chapters I'm able to kind of predict a little bit, what I think is gonna happen. Sometimes closer than others. Other times, like the recent chapters, I've just have no idea, man.
But I've been probably pretty good about like guessing what's gonna happen lately.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's some things that we were able to kind of get right?
Yeah.
But other things like I can't lie, Hokazono just keeps me guessing. Like I could never imagine
Oh,
that at the end
for
of this
sure.
chapter, Yura was gonna pull out Centipede without even having access to the Magatsumi. Like I don't think anybody would have guessed that. I think people after last chapter were pretty confident saying that we were getting close to that traitor reveal, which this chapter does prove. But yeah, there's still a lot of unknowns.
I think we're gonna cut away from this. We're not seeing anything from Yura right now. Like next chapter, we're going straight to Chihiro and Samura, or we're gonna cut back to like Ichiki and those guys. But we're gonna see Chihiro and Samura next chapter, and from there, now that's two enchanted blade wielders entering the fray against their only like adversary that's like can give them any like problems is Yura, and he's on like level 6. If they wanted to, Samura could literally just like break the floors down. He could literally just like put a hole in every floor and go straight down there if he wanted to. And now with like Chihiro, we don't know. We know Chihiro got healed. They're in both like good health physically, but we don't know. We're speculating that Suzaku might be able to replenish some spirit energy just because like Samura is like a perpetual motion machine for sword fighting, and he was like spamming abilities. But it's going to be interesting to see just like how they go, because they're going to have to. Obviously, they can't. The feathers don't reach like the bottom, like underground. Excuse me. So they're going to teleport, and they're going to have to go through the elimination grounds, and they're going to have to go down every floor. But interesting enough, that barrier is still up too. I wonder how they're going to get through that barrier. Because remember,
We'll see for how long that
that
barrier is gonna be up.
Yeah, that's true. But the Hishaku had to get teleported in.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they were like right outside the same floor as the third elimination ground and the waiting area. And then when time was right, they teleported in.
Well, you would think the Kamunabi would let these guys in, right? Come on now.
Things are crazy right now. Who knows if they're going to be able to?
Oh, true. Yeah.
Redirect things and be able to like focus on that. They might not, but I do think Izuru is going to be the one to let them in.
I agree.
I think Izuru is going to play that part of like we have to let them in. And then from there, I think it's going to be about them like basically just no diffing some fodder for like a chapter or two, like maybe the traitor had is got, because we know that there's got to be some other members that are traitors in the Kabunabi. And there's also the Hishaku there, like what's his name? Bingo, Urin. We still have Pishaku out. I mean, we know that they're getting surrounded by Kamunabi members, but I think like when Chihiro and Samura pull up, like Pishaku's gonna like no diff the two guys that pulled up on him. You know what I mean? It's just that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be like them running into like maybe they split up. Who knows? But it's gonna be them fighting. I think like a mixture of the traders and maybe some Hishaku until it gets to like the climax.
Yeah, I'm gonna stand by what I said. Like, besides like Chihiro and Samura pulling up and doing their thing, I just don't know, man.
Looking forward to whatever it is, though, for sure.
Yeah, because I can also, yeah, I just wouldn't be surprised wherever Hokazono decides to take this. Like, it does look like he's clearly setting up a fight between, whether it's Yura versus Chihiro and Samura. Because I don't think Natsuki and Uruha will be able to deal with this monster anymore. So it does look like with the way this chapter ends,
it's not. One of them is dying. Natsuki's dying this arc. I'm sorry, I know that you love him, but I think Natsuki he's gonna be like your Uruha, like to bring him back just to die here. Like I mean, I do like his character has like elevated since he's been back. I do believe that. I love Uruha. I just don't know if he dies here per se. He is in a bad position. Don't get me wrong, but one of those two guys has to die. It's like, especially with the Magatsumi being enacted, like it'd be a shame to not see like one of them die because of the ramifications and how important it is to make the Magatsumi like feared.
Yeah, well, again, I wouldn't even feel too confident. Like, I agree with you, and like if I had to say like Uruha or Natsuki, which one is more likely to die, I have no issue in saying that very likely Natsuki. But I don't I don't think it's crazy to say that, or at least I don't think neither of them are dying. I think if anything, it's a good chance that Uruha is kind of left incapable, like to fight again. And I could definitely see that happening, especially with like Samura now kind of coming in. Samura might feel guilty because of that. There's like a whole like underlying conversation in regards to like that whole thing because Uruha was very motivated to jump back into the fight because he felt not responsible, but he did not want to let Samura do what he was doing. So I could very see a scenario where like this is it for Uruha. Maybe not in the sense because like we still really haven't seen anything of his sorcery. But so as I kind of really think about that, I'm kind of taking back what I said. But I don't know, man. I wouldn't bet on like Natsuki dying either necessarily. And what I don't know, which is ultimately what I was gonna say, is that I'm not sure that we're gonna get the Yura versus Samura and Chihiro fight. I could see Samura taking this fight by himself and not wanting Chihiro to get involved. There's a lot of things to do because, like you said, Pishaku might, there's still like problems, and Samura might tell Chihiro, go back up, you know, the rest of the Kamunabi or whatever. I'm gonna take this on, and that might not, it might not go down like that, but the point I'm trying to make is there's so many variables, and we still really don't know how close Hokuzono is to wrapping this up. Are we gonna get in a little skirmish, a fight that's gonna last a couple chapter, and then it wraps up? Are we gonna get no fight at all? Are we gonna get another 15 chapters of fighting?
Yeah, man. And the fight of like Yura, Natsuki, and Uruha, I definitely could see someone just intervening, like not anyone big, like not I don't mean Samura Chihiro, but one of the elite commanders pulls up and just help or just kind of like dissuades Yura so like they can kind of escape his clutches. Like there's many ways that Uruha and Natsuki can get out of like this, but it's definitely going to be by the intervention of help someone else. Because
Yeah.
like we just see him just like ragdoll these two like strong swordsmen and like slam them to the ground. So
Disrespectful.
he just like outclasses them at this point. So and their sword, maybe Natsuki's sorcery will come into play with that. Him just that light, maybe he has like a big lightning surge because they are in water as well. But that would also might cook Uruha too. But Uruha might be down for that if it means trying to take out Yura. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's just like you said, a lot of different ways to go. We just have to, let Hokuzono cook. We say it every episode.
He's doing it. He's cooking.
Oh, he's cooking. Yeah, motherfucker got his apron on. Yeah, man. Great chapter. Great chapter.
He hasn't taken that shit off for months now.
He got that shit for Father's Day, and he's proud of it. He is our dad. He is our dad.
Yeah, man. Do you have any other thoughts? Because at least I don't think I do, genuinely.
No, that's it, man. I think we said everything. Peak chapter.
I'm excited for what the people have to say. Guys, if we've missed anything, if there's like theories you have, whatever it is, really leave it in the comments. Like let's talk about this because we all have questions, and I'm genuinely curious as of what other people think. Like what they think the deal between the Sword Saint with Yura is, the deal with Yura by himself. I'm genuinely curious to see what our listeners think. So.
Oh yeah. Like I like to see the viewers like theories and things like that because we all have a different perspective and we all like take like statements differently. And I don't really knock anybody for like saying if they have a theory, like because I've even created theories that could
both
and the theory is just like bullshit, or like the theory I created is I forgot like one statement that like disproves my whole theory. It happens. So like don't hesitate to drop a theory. Don't hesitate to like ask us questions. This is we want to build a community here, and so the only way to do that is by like us interacting with you guys, and so don't hesitate to hit us up on even on Twitter if you just want to talk on there or whatever. But we genuinely appreciate you guys watching. It's been like great support, and that's it for me. I anything else to say? You have any closing thoughts, Dice?
Nah, man, that was it. Fun chapter. Again, looking forward to the next one.
Yep, see you next week. Peace.
Peace.